Hi and welcome back to Mike Makes It. You join me in the garage. I've been in the scrap bin, pulled out 3 or 4 bits of scrap metal, and the plan today is to make a small but powerful metal bending jig to go into this vise, 5-inch jaw. It's going to be quite small bending jig, but it's going to be very useful around the shop, I think. So join me over the saw where I'm going to be chopping up a few bits of metal today. Okay, we're over at the saw. My vise is got jaws of 5 inches wide, so I'm going to cut these. I'll go over the metric now, just to confuse things. I'm going to cut 2 of these rods, 135mm in length, and likewise the angle. I'm going to cut 2 of those same length, so we'll just see how sharp the blade is. Here we go. Right, there you go. There's some of the bits I need. There's one on the floor rolling around. I'll just clean those up a little bit. There's one more piece I need to make, but I want to machine it on the lathe first. And that's not so much the jaw, but the part that'll push in to these 2 pieces. You imagine this is a longer piece. It's the tongue that's going to press in to bend this metal, or bend the metal I'm going to be putting into the machine. So that's the plan now. So we'll get that over onto the lathe, which has got a mill on it. So that's what I'm going to do now for you. There you go. That's what I said I was going to do. I didn't record that on video. I thought I'd just crack on with it. It looks about the right dimensions. This is what I was looking for. See if I can get in a bit closer there. Let me just loosen the mill off. This is the first time I've used this, the mill attachment on the old Warco. Seems to work alright. Bit noisy, but to get it to the right milling height, I've had to put various blocks in. And one thing I've learned, this came with a lathe. I think I paid for it, but this is whether was it 2002. So this is 18 years old. It's the first time I've used it, and it is terrible. It runs 2mm out across the face of the vise itself. You see it's one of them angly vices. You can alter the angle as I've needed here to mill a blade there for the bender. But yeah, from side to side it runs out by 2mm. So yeah, if I'm going to carry on using something like that, I better get a bit of quality. But there you go. There's the blade, as I call it, that's going to go into the vice bender. We'll take it out, I'll square the ends up on the lathe, and I think probably the next thing is a bit of welding. Okay, before we go over the welder, I've got a couple of holes to put into this right angle steel. The reason I've got to do that is, you can see here, there's a radius on the inner side of the angle. So where it sits on the vise, it won't actually sit square. Going to be a bit how you're doing. So if I put a couple of grub screws in here, it'll lift it up above that radius, so it'll sit square in the vise. So only a simple thing got to be done. I could have put a plate underneath, but I think simplicity, a couple of grub screws, that'll hold it above, should be good. Then we'll crack on with the welding like I promised. I'm drilling out 4.3mm. That's the right size hole, I believe, for a 5mm tap. So here we go. Well, there's the workpiece set up in the bench. The 2 bars are squished together with a blade. The blade obviously isn't going to stay in that position, that's just for spacing. So yeah, I think we're ready to go. Put a few tacks in there. If it looks good, then I'll fully weld this first bar in along there and get to both sides of that. The other one I can get to one side. I might be a little bit tricky to get onto the inner side, but we'll have a go. Anyhow, let's switch a welder on. There's the old Clark there. That does me well. So yeah, let's see how well it does today. Okie dokie, we'll weld up the other side. There's the blade fitted onto the back plate. There's a couple of bolts, like I said, just going through to align it. I've added over on the gauge at the bench and levelled everything up, and I think give or take 0.1 of a mil it come out as. Should be fairly good. I'm going to run a bead of weld down each side as well as I can, and I think we're almost done there. Do need to drill a couple of holes in here for magnets so it'll lock onto the bench. The vise, I should say. So, but first things first, let's get the weld on. Not the best, not the worst. A little bit cleaning up and job's a good one. Right, here's one of the plates to go in the vise. I've got some rare earth magnets here, which I'm going to recess into these holes. These couple I've drilled out either side, 11.5 mil to suit the magnet. I'm going to use epoxy resin to glue them in, but the idea is thus. And there'll be another one on top of that one, so the magnet will become flush to the surface. And you put that into the vise and it'll stick to the jaws, so it shouldn't drop out when you're manoeuvring the metal about. So I'm going to go on, clean these two parts up. The other one's over back of the workshop there. Going to clean these two pieces up, epoxy the magnets in, and we'll see if we can bend some metal in the vise. Then probably a dab of spray paint. Alright, just mixing a spot of epoxy up. It's Araldite that I squeeze that out. That's hard going, that's a bit old. It's Araldite is what I normally use. This is 90-second set time Araldite, so you ain't got a lot of time to mess about. But it works quite good. And that's what I'm going to use here. So just mix a spot up. And we'll get the magnets in. Here we go. There we go. I'll do the other one now. Alright, there you go. There's those two finished units. I haven't painted them. I blued them instead, cold blue. Did a little video on a couple of items I cold blued a while ago. I'll put a link in the description for those. It just gives it a bit of rust protection. And also I thought if I painted it, the paint may well come off the piece I'm trying to bend. So that's the main reason I haven't painted it. But yeah, we'll put them in the vise and see what we can do. You see the magnets. They seem to work quite well and hold the jaws or the folder plates into the jaws of the vise. So let's get them in. That sits quite snugly there. And there, the screws, as I say, keep these assemblies square in the vise. Now I have bent up a couple of bits of metal off shot just to see how it went. Now these 3mm steel, and that's about the limit for this. If you want to go any higher than that, I reckon with something like this, you're going to have to put it into hydraulic press. But that's for another video. But certainly in this 5-inch jaw, 3mm is, to my mind, the maximum. And about 50mm wide. Any more than that, I think you're going to come unstuck. I've got a bit of steel I'm going to try now. This measures about, well, in fact, I'll tell you exactly how much it measures. This is 115mm wide, 1.5mm steel plate. So we'll pop that in there and give it a little turn of the vise. I've not marked it. I'm just obviously bending it freehand. So we'll see what happens. Now I can only do it by eye. I'm going to aim for 90 degree on that. I reckon that's not far off. And that was very easy to bend. Okay, that's not 90 degree, so we'll pop that back in again. See if we can do a little bit more. Remember, there's a bit of spring back on that when you release it. So here we go. Now that's a little bit over 90, I would have said. But nevertheless, you get the idea. So that's only 1.5 mm, like I say. And that bends very, very easily. Let's see if we can do a better job here. Excuse the arm in the way of the camera. That's a closer 90. So 1.5mm, 115mm wide. Almost the same width as the jaw chucks, piece of cake. So yeah, they do work. As you can see, they're holding in the vise just with a couple of those rare earth magnets, so you don't need too much to hold them in there. What I could have done is move the bars a little bit closer. That might have given me a little bit of a tighter bend. But for the amount of stuff I'm going to do in the workshop in the vise, I think they could be more than sufficient. So anyhow, if you found that interesting, thumbs up would be great, and don't forget to follow the channel. Thanks for watching.